I did not put this in my calendar. I totally forgot.
Slacker, you know.
Yeah.
And we've got Cudo's backyard. Now, I've seen Cudo's backyard, and it's nicer than that one right there.
And when you say his backyard, do you really mean his butt?
That's what I mean.
He has long grass in his backyard.
Yes, he does. Long grass. Hey, I got to go change my shirt, you guys.
Yeah, you do.
Are we allowed to say that you're?
No. Can't say Cudo. Can't say Cudo's either. Hang on one sec. I'll be right back.
Cudo, what's going on?
I'm working really hard right now to try to get a giant ass as my background. 13 superfoods that make your buttocks bigger.
All right, I'm back. So the shirt that I have on now, courtesy of Cudo. It's one of my favorite shirts, man.
You know what that says to me?
What's that?
You need some more shirts.
I do need some more shirts. I need some more Cudo shirts.
Is my tree in the background good?
I like your tree in your background.
That's all I got.
I'm gonna throw in
That's Mark Taylor between one fern. That's his new.
Sitting next to a fern. Ta-da.
I need another one between the ferns.
Yeah. So I want to start this out by telling a funny Cudo story.
Oh.
Yeah. So Cudo, or actually, I want you to tell the story. Let's have you tell the story. So right off the bat here, tell me about Bird Island and you mocking John Absey, formerly the Bear. Now, first of all, let's introduce Cudo as the former Moodog from Cavaliers.
Woo!
Yeah. And Mark Taylor, formerly, well, wait, before we get to Mark, Cudo, formerly Moondog, formerly Nike guy, formerly Swoosh Man, and formerly Crunch.
What was your WNBA guy? The dog Spot?
Spot, the fire dog, of course.
Spot the fire dog.
That was your best character, I think. Sorry.
My best work?
Yep.
That was the most fun, I mean, by far.
Less rules?
No, it's just like it was, you know what it was? It was like all the stuff about the NBA, like the you know, and again, it's like, it's kind of baked in. It's like the players and the TV and like just what it is makes it difficult. You know, it's like where you can walk and who you can talk to and what you can do and all those things. And the players working with you and playing with you. And, you know, it's like in the WNBA, they're all just like, everyone's thrilled to be there. Everyone's having a great time. The fans are just like hungry and passionate. It's just fun. It's like, it's more fun because there's no rules, but
yeah. Well,
it's like
and
the microscope isn't as strong. People aren't watching every move as much.
Right.
That's what I felt like when I was doing WNBA as well.
Well,
the great Doppler. So Kenny, you know, it's surprising that Mark and I are on the same podcast because we were bitter rivals. The rivalry between the Seattle Storm and the Portland Fire was just like that was Pistons Bulls circa 90s. I mean, that was, you know, you name it. That was Lakers Celtics.
Oh my gosh,
Storm Fire.
You guys are speaking on speaking terms?
Technically, if you haven't noticed, I haven't addressed him directly yet.
Oh, or made eye contact.
I can't see him past my WNBA ring. The glare is bright.
Oh, that's a cute one. I didn't wear my NBA ring. It's in a vault because I can't take it out without an insurance claim.
None of which I have anything of. I have an.
And he goes quiet.
Yeah, I have an Avalanche ring, and I don't even work for them. So,
those are nice too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I have one piece of bad news for you, Ken, and I don't know if you know this or not about me, but I have an absolutely brutal memory. So when you're talking about the story from Bird Island, I have no idea what you're talking about. So you're going to have to clue me in. Okay, you have to clue me in with that story that I'm going to tell. You have to tell me what it is.
Okay. Okay. So first of all, yes. Wait, I want to go back a little bit. here I am jumping around on my own thing here. So, but when you're talking about anything goes, literally on Sunday, I pulled out a VHS tape because I've been converting VHS over to DVD. I found a tape of me in college, and it was me working at a junior college in Idaho, working a football game. Okay. So I noticed through this whole 4 hours, brutal 4 hours, that the crowd would laugh and cheer at anything. That's when it was good. It was just raise my hand. Ah, he's the greatest. Yeah. Then at one point I look, the camera pans up. It's my sister filming. So she's, she zooms in across the field, people laying on the grass over there and everything, watching the football game. And here's a big sign, Thor, I'm like, I was so bad back then, but yet these people were making signs for me and everything. I sat there the whole time with my hand over my face, my son over here just cracking up going, you did that? What was that? And yeah, so it was, here I am carrying around a dummy the whole time too, beating up a ref dummy. And,
oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people love it.
I love that you said you're that old that you had to put VHS on DVD, and it's not that you're putting it on, or it's a VHS. It's that you're putting it on DVD that won't even be around.
I know. Wait.
I wrote the same note, Mark. I'm like, does anybody want to tell them that we don't really use DVDs anymore?
Wait.
Cross that note out.
Just wait. Just to pull myself out of the depths here. Look. I am changing that over so that I can digitize it. I've already put stuff on YouTube already. So it's just digitizing. And it's something that I can do at home in my spare time. Just clarifying, I'm not an idiot. Okay, so for the most part.
TBD.
So anyways, yes.
Ready to start the podcast now?
Yes, let's go. Jeez. So
after you're done with lunch.
Yes, we've got Mark on here as well. Mark is having lunch, and it was formerly Rumble for the Thunder and Squatch.
I was Howler for like 3 months.
Oh, that's right. Howler for the Avalanche. Yeah, in Denver. So, but anyways, so I wanted to talk about Bird Island. I heard this story from Absy, and when you were mocking him about his big hoop at Bird Island, about him going through this big hoop. I guess he was going to start the show off here. And they put like candles. Was that right? You put candles around this thing so it was a hoop of fire? And you were mocking.
Yeah. So now I know what story you're telling. So I did, one of my big dunks back in the day when I could dunk was through a hoop and then through a paper hoop. And actually, which was great. When I used to travel around, I would literally, kind of like to relax myself, I think, but get to the venue, and then I'd do this big paper hoop, and I would draw a logo. Sometimes I would make them before I went on the trip, even like pencil them out or something, but I'd like marker the whole thing out of this big bag of markers they go, and I'd put their logo, and then as like the finale dunk, I would jump through, pop through the paper hoop, and dunk. And then it turned into a ring of fire, which I also did. And by the way, so this is NBA circa 1990s. There was no stunt crew. There was no. It was literally like you and whatever you could shoelace together. And so this is a piece of 1/2-inch PVC pipe that you would ring together. I would I literally wrapped a torn up towel around it, drenched in lighter fluid, and then I would light it on fire and dunk through the ring of fire. And so Absy, of course, ripped me off. You heard me here. You ripped me off. So he brings his ring of fire to Bird Island, and like I said, my hoop was. I remember I used to pack it. Mark, you would know this well. I would pack it in my trampoline bag, so that was what is it 3 feet? The old hexagon hoops.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's about 3 feet. My hoop would fit right in there. The same
diameter.
Thank you. Diameter, circumference of the of my bag. So I'd slide it in there, and that's why I'd keep my hoops. And so Absy shows up with his big ring of fire. He's going to dunk through the ring of fire. His ring of fire hoop is, and I'm not exaggerating. I don't need to. It's like 6.5 feet tall. I could walk through it. And of course, I'm mocking him like, well, how do you make it through? Like the accuracy is just pinpoint. I don't know how you do it. I think that's the story, Cam. Unless you're going somewhere else with this.
No, that's the story. And then something happened to him and
No, I don't remember.
physically. And I think he said that he's like, oh, hey, Cudo, seriously, you got to go through this hoop. You got to do the hoop. And he says that you went when it came right down to it, you went through it, you shot through it like a bullet or something, missed the hoop, overshot the mat, and missed the dunk and everything. And it was so anticlimactic. And he was just standing behind the hoop going, Cudo, you suck. So, anyways.
I got to stand up for Absy a little bit. He had that hoop that large because he would do a front flip through it.
Right.
No one's flipping through that little hula hoop. Or maybe, I don't know. Has anyone flipped?
I'm going to dispute Absy's story only because I totally don't remember any of that. So
okay.
Who knows? And actually, I kind of don't remember. I know I was there once with Absy. But so the Bird Island thing started when I was Crunch. And if I remember correctly, there was a young man who got and Marker, can you know the story? I think he had cancer in his eye. And he actually ended up, that's what the whole event started as. Am I off the? And so I did this when I was Crunch, and then I left, and Absy started doing it after that. And then I actually came back. This was years later. Might have been when I was Spot. I'm not sure of the timeline. So I know I was there once with Absy, and it was a completely different event. When I was there, it was like a school assembly kind of setup. And then years later, it was a total game, and there was like six NBA guys there. So the event had totally morphed and grew into something else. So
it was your seed you planted.
That's just gross. But
so far, this is the most boring podcast I've ever listened to.
Seriously,
Ken, will you let us know when you're going to start recording?
I'm about to get off my own podcast.
So let's go to Mark. Mark, tell me some.
Please go to Mark.
No. What story do you remember, Ken?
What's that?
I said, what story do you remember about me?
I don't know. Teaching you how to dunk.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I've got my little boutonniere deformity from when you were teaching me right before my tryouts. I'd never really jumped off a trampoline before, and luckily I got the tryout up in Seattle and was begging you to show me how to dunk, and ran over there, and my last dunk of the night hit the rim, and my pinky was all swollen up and it wouldn't bend, and I went to try out the auditions and it wouldn't bend, and I guess it was good enough to make it, so whatever.
Well, it's these little setbacks that I instill in the instructions that I give, that sets you up for future success.
One thing that I learned from you that I think really helped me get the job too was during my tryouts, I did like these 3 skits at the beginning. So they said you have 15 minutes to showcase your talents. 15 minutes as a mascot, that's brutal. That's a marathon.
Yeah. You have an eternity to do a couple skits?
Yeah, I did 3 skits and then dunked at the end, which just shows you how stupid and green I was that I thought dunking at the end would be the best. But I did think like, oh, that's the grand finale. I'll do these comedy bits and then finish with the dunks and blow them away. Well, at that point I was sucking for air. I couldn't breathe. So I run down, hit the trampoline. I just do a straight on, make it, go back, do it between the legs, barely make it. Then I'm like, okay, I got to go for the flip. I got to get this job. I know the guy before me, Adam Hardy, was an incredible dunker, and like they're going to be expecting all this. So I come running down, hit the trampoline, do a flip, and just totally get hung on the rim. The ball flies, barely hit the rim. I got lucky I hit the rim. But I remembered seeing another mascot that happens to be your character that I guess we're not allowed to talk about, but I remember seeing you do this one time when you missed the dunk, walk back over in front of the trampoline and do the old, this. Which
I got from Cudo.
Hey, there we go. Wow.
I totally stole that from Cudo.
Full circle.
Full circle.
So what I didn't know is when I hit the trampoline, one of the springs popped out of the trampoline and landed on the ground. And when I went over to like pull up the little invisible thing, they all thought, oh, that spring fell out, and that totally messed them up, and I didn't know that. And either way.
See, can I just point something out here, okay? And I think Cudo, you'll agree with me on this one. Does this guy live a charmed life or what?
Very much so.
I mean,
Well,
like
he's a charming guy, too. They said,
nothing
okay.
but sunshine falls on this guy. I mean,
As I'm shutting my trampoline park down this week, yeah, sure.
I know, but that's probably just going to open something up, like a gold mine underneath it or something. So.
Yeah.
There's a Clorox wipe factory that's going to move into your space.
Right. That whole tryout thing, Cudo and I can converse on as well, because I did the exact same thing at my tryout. I dunked at the end, but they only gave us 6 minutes. 6 minutes I thought was an eternity. And I just remember sucking wind so bad after my tryout that I went back in, and I think Cudo, you had already gone, right? You had already, I don't know, I think you had gone before me. And I had gotten in a sweaty costume or something. That was probably yours. But I remember going into the little locker room waiting area afterwards and just about throwing up and trying to act cool in front of all the rest of you guys. And you were like, hey, man, so we're all going to go out tonight. We're going to go grab a few drinks or whatever. You want to go with us? And I'm like, I'm going to go home and throw up. I'm just going to go home and lay down. I cannot move. I am so sick right now. So, yeah, that was my tryout. But 15 minutes.
Yeah, and at my tryout, we were going to be a chicken. They rented 3 chicken costumes, but it was this chicken costume that it had this flappy beak, and it wouldn't stay open, so you couldn't see through it. And I get some needle and thread, and I'm trying to adjust it to my head to see if I can make anything work out of it. And finally, and the other guys are struggling with it too. One of the guys who was trying out was from BYU, one of the Cougar, and he brought the whole Cougar costume. And so he was like, why don't we just use this? And the team's like, well, that seems a little unfair that he's so used to that costume that, we should all be using the same one. And me and the other guy were like, I don't care. Let's at least wear the head. We can wear the chicken costume, the body, but we'll wear the cougar head. And so we were actually this cougar chicken thing, wearing a cougar head with the chicken body.
I love the cougar chicken.
Oh yeah. And then the poor guy, I'm third in, and it was sweaty, all sweaty and nasty. And then he didn't even get the job. He's sent him home with a sweaty costume because he was in a sweat.
Ew. Everybody's sweating there.
That's one thing, like the guys who swap costumes or co-perform. And first of all, with COVID, I think that's out, thankfully. But man, I've just never. I mean, that's just the grossest thing ever.
Yeah. I don't know how people do that, and they do it all the time in college.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but okay. So dunking. I want to stick with dunking a little bit. What's your worst? Or some of your worst dunks? I mean, like, I remember at a high school one time doing an assembly. This is way back, but they didn't have a mat. They didn't have a crash mat. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna, I gotta have a mat. So they said, well, we got this big triangle mat. I'm like, okay. It's a big wedge. And the top of it was pretty high. And well, I'm like, there's enough surface there. I could probably just, put a dunk in and land on that, whatever. I go up there. I dunked it, put my arm in, and kind of swung my feet back up underneath and let go. But as I came down, just my chest hit the top of the wedge. So I went way too far. My kneecaps came down, wham, on the hardwood floor. And literally, I thought I was done. I thought my legs, I thought I was going to be hospitalized. Literally got up, like, can I actually even hold weight on my feet, on my legs? And never been in so much pain. Well, no, I have, but that was a lot of pain. Anyways, but I remember Cudo used to put holes in his ball.
Yeah.
Oh, the bowling ball.
Weak.
So, thank you. But I never lost the ball. I think one of my favorite dunk botch stories. I was in. This is when I was Swoosh Man, and I was doing the rollerblade dunks, and we would do it with the centrifuge. My assistant would stand out like in the center of the court, and there's like ski tow rope thing, and he'd like zing me around, and then you just get slung up the not the baseline, but the sideline of the court towards the ramp. And we had practiced this obviously in Beaverton, and now we're in France doing the show. And the whole layout is the ramp is in one spot, and then the way we had it, it's essentially 6 feet. So you could just put your arms out about 6 feet, and that's where the mat goes. And the mat's like 6 foot by 12 foot or so, whatever. And so we're doing it, and we rehearsed it, and we did it. Now it's showtime when we do it. A little side note about Swoosh Man, it was like a scuba gear suit. And so when you sweat, it would all literally drain down to the feet. And so when I had on the rollerblades, there's video actually of I'm rollerblading around the court, and you see there's water like squirting out the sides of the boot from the rollerblade, because all the water is draining down to my ankles and going out there. And that's the only place it has to go. That's a whole other thing, which, by the way, you can't rollerblade with a wet court. So once you make one loop and you've sweated up and there's water squirting everywhere, it's just the whole thing's a death trap. So I'm going around, I centrifuge around, I come up the baseline. I mean, you're going as fast as you can go. And there's no turning back. There's absolutely no stopping, nothing to do. I hit the ramp, and I remembered all I could think of was the mat should not be touching the trampoline, which means essentially the mat was 6 feet closer to the tramp than it should have been. And so I hit it. I'm going, you get the adrenaline's rushing. You're flying through the air. And with the ramp, your feet kind of go out in front of you. So I'm up feet in front of me. I'm going to slide by the net. I dunk it. But then the first thing I'm doing, I'm turning around, trying to grab backwards to try to grab the mat, just so I can land something on the mat without completely missing it. Because as you go, I'm prone to 6 feet out of the way. I'm going to completely overshoot the mat. Yeah. So I'm leaning back, trying to catch something of the mat. I land from essentially horizontally 10 feet in the air as I slide by, dunk the basketball on the way by. I land from there, boom, right on the hardwood floor. And of course, then you just bounce up like nothing happened, because you're a superhero. You gotta live through that. So I get up and I'm like, oh! and the next day, everyone's worried about you, and you want to have a show like that something hurt. The next day was kind of nothing. I think I actually flew back like the following day, and by the third day, I was bruised from my shoulder blade down to my knee, like an entire body bruise, just from landing completely on the court.
Can't believe you didn't break anything.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and I can relate with reaching back for that. It's like slow motion falling, going, I just want that mat over here.
I remember, Ken, one time you were reaching for the rim. You were on rollerblades going over the guy on the Harley. And this was way back in the old arena.
Yeah.
And you didn't have enough speed. And you were basically coming right down on top of the guy. So you're like trying to reach the grab it to pull yourself. And you like slide right down his back and right off the back of the motorcycle. That was crazy.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that. And that was me just like skating.
Yeah,
fast.
Good.
Yeah.
You would do this big circle around the court, like that's really going to help, because you can't, when you get in the corner, you're going too fast. You have to slow down.
Right. Yeah. That was just manpower, though, trying to go off that ramp. Yeah.
I had a similar crash experience. It was also on inline skates and doing the ramp dunk, and it was crash mats, and we would put crash mats end to end. This was during practice. No, I had it in the game like this too. So I was going from a little bit farther out, so I couldn't just do like a little 6 foot gap there. I need a little bit more, but we had two mats end to end.
Did he just like subtly just,
Yeah, that was.
I'm bigger and better than you.
Hey,
no, okay.
I told you, Ken, about that rivalry.
Oh,
So
it's all coming out.
Mats are back to back or end to end. We put a mat on top of where those two come together, so there's not that crease. Back in those days, we didn't have the Velcro strap that you could put over the between two mats to keep it from having a gap there. In practice, I would jump off the ramp, land on the top mat, and that whole mat would kind of slide with me. And so it helped kind of reduce some of that momentum. Well, we did that practice like 7 or 8 times, kept moving it back to where it's supposed to be. And then I'm like, okay, last one, this is it. Let's walk through it just like it's at the game. And no one remembered to move the mat back, so it had slid all the way to the end. And as I'm in the air, I can look down and see there's the mat's not where it's supposed to be, and the rim's coming at my head. So I'm like, okay, I will dunk and duck, and both feet landed right in the gap. And that wasn't that wasn't like the main part that hurt landing there. It was that my momentum, I was going, 20 or 30 miles an hour, and then completely come to a screeching halt. I didn't slide at all. So my feet land in that. My knees both just smash me in the chest. I can feel, just like you said earlier, Ken, where it was like, this is it. Like I just blew out both my knees, both my ankles. I'm not going to walk again. But luckily I was able to stand up. I ended up tearing my meniscus. I had a bone bruise in the other knee, sprained that knee, and then sprained both ankles. But taped it up and did it the next night. One try, go down. That was the last game of that season, and I had all summer to rest.
Oh, well, see?
It all works out.
It all works out for Mark,
Charm of life.
Yeah.
That's the moral of every story, and it's the charm of life.
Yeah. I did have surgery right after that, too.
Yeah.
Surgery was successful. So there you go.
Look at that. You didn't die. Okay, so here's one. At my age, 2 years ago, I was 52. Practicing for opening night. I got a new one wheel. Those things are awesome, by the way. So I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to try the ramp thing, or the electric skateboard thing or whatever, where you jump off and hit the trampoline. So I thought, you know what? I need to try this out before I get too much further in this. I'm going to do this in the back without, the basketball court wasn't set up. Hoops put away, whatever. I'm in the back in the tunnel. I'm trying this. I set up a trampoline. I set up a mat. And at first I'm like just easing into it or whatever. Sure enough, after a couple of these, and they were successful, all of a sudden there was a little bit of a crowd there. There were some stage hands, and they're all like, yeah, man, this is awesome. This is going to be great. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to turn it up now. Showing off, fire down there, full speed at this thing, jump off, completely miss the mat. I didn't even know where to put the mat in the first place, but I was doing fine. I kept before that, I kept going up. Well, this time, man, I launched off the trampoline perfectly. I'm like, I am actually flying. And there went the mat, everything. It was so far behind me. And then I realized that there's a brick wall coming up. Like, I was flying literally 30 feet. And so I ducked, no helmet. It's cement back there too, by the way. And luckily,
ours is dirt. We have dirt in our back. I don't know, Oklahoma thing, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's Oklahoma for you. But out there dodging cows. And so, yeah, literally, it came down right in the corner of the cement, the brick wall, and just barely, like literally within inches, missed a golf cart as well. Well, the guy that was there helping me, he runs over and he's like, all I hear him saying is, "Stay with me, Ken. Stay with me." I look up and there's of course there's blood in my eyes. Heads bleed. So yeah, I did end up in the hospital. Getting in the emergency room, getting some stitches on that one. But yeah, needless to say,
you made it back in time for tip off.
I made it back in time for tip off. Didn't do the stunt that night, so yeah, but I shouldn't be doing that stuff at my age. But I thought it was brilliant when I saw Cudo's bowling ball, basketball, dunk ball.
I take a lot of heat for that, but like I said, I don't ever drop the ball.
No,
If you hold on, can both of you guys tell me you've never done a dunk where the ball slipped out of your hands?
I can. Yeah, I'll admit it.
It's never happened.
No.
Or it has happened.
Oh, it has happened several times.
Yeah.
I went as far
Mark?
as to do the whole, spray glue your glove thing.
Oh yeah. I used to have a patch of Velcro on there and a Velcro dunk glove. Mark, the ball's never slipped out of your hands?
Oh, no, yeah, it has.
Okay.
Most of the time it was, I'm thinking more, it was dunk teams, a pass coming to me.
Yeah, you can't use it for that.
There's times I missed. Didn't you have a ball inside the ball too?
Yeah. So
To keep it inflated.
It's a regular ball, and then on the inside you get to find a ball that has like a little bit of give to it, one of those little kind of playground balls. Yeah.
How did you get it in there?
Well, you de-inflate it, and then you stick it in there, and then you inflate it while it's in there. And then the other trick is on the ball that you put on the inside, you got to put arrows all over to where the inflation tube is. Because once it disappears, you're fishing it out of there forever trying to find the right spot. So I have all these arrows on the ball, like this is the way to find it if you're looking for the inflation.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's great. See,
Kudo
always has like things written out.
Oh.
When he would throw a football in the crowd, throw this back.
Oh, throw it back.
To crunch. Yeah. I mean,
You
he
idiot.
spell you idiot.
Hey, by the way, so
instruction manual right there on the football.
So Ken, I know you're old enough for this one, and Mark, I think you probably are too. But like one of the great setup gimmicks for skits. I mean, I've used this like when I tell stories, I always think like, did I do this for every skit? But like and it's an old gorilla bit where you just go out in the fourth quarter and you bring a football, and it's kind of a basketball game. You throw the football in the crowd and they throw it back, and you play and catch. But it's like a setup to all these like little silly skit bits, or you can always create a skit out of it because it's the way you pull a fan out of the stands, or it's the way you get something to happen on the court. It's like just it's that action that happens beforehand, and no one does that anymore. Yeah, it's like a little intro piece that you can like write anything you want at the tail end of it. But no one does it anymore because that football thing doesn't really work now because the court has 1 million people on the court.
Yeah.
And so like I haven't used that forever, and it's just such a great tool.
I think the other thing is current day mascots don't have as much leeway. It's like you're going out there for a specific purpose. You need to everything has to be approved. Where that was kind of the end of my career. It was more like that. Yeah, don't go out and just freelance and just kind of make something up. But that's when those were the best bits. Throw the ball up there and just like what is going to happen. And there's times when nothing happens, but you have your fallback. When they throw the ball back, you miss it, it hits you in the head, and you fall over.
Or the referee, gets the last throw. That's one of my favorite too. Is you just tell the referee if nothing happens, you're end of the timeout. You hand it to the referee and you say, "Just throw it away from me," and you'd run it for a pass, and they'd turn the other way and throw it in the crowd. They'd just get booed like crazy. But again, it's like the great ending, and you're done. It's like,
yeah, all right, okay. You walk off, and it's like everybody's looking at you, saying, "Oh yeah, he got dissed by the referee." It's this perfect ending to all that, and a lot of times you can come back and add on to that.
Oh yeah. It's such a great setup. I feel bad that no one uses it anymore.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I still throw the football in the crowd. A lot of times I'll use the hoop pants or whatever that I got from Mark, actually. That idea. I'm sounding like I steal everything. Anyways, so, but I got to where I throw the football. I would throw the football, all around. But one day I threw it. This is way back. I threw it on the player's side of the court, and some dude, he grabs it and fires it right at the other team. I mean, he turns and just throws it right into their huddle.
That's why we don't use the football anymore.
Yeah, that's it right there. I was never allowed to throw it on that side of the arena anymore. I was lucky that I could throw it at all, because I've had so many other things just nixed, like my "I'm with stupid" shirt.
I have a funny story, and everyone knows this guy now. When I was with the Timberwolves, Kevin Harlan was the voice of the Timberwolves on TV, who now is obviously world famous as the voice of the NBA and whatever, he's on TNT or whatever. And he's awesome, like the greatest dude ever, super great. And he always wanted to be in bits. And he kind of liked a little adversarial thing between Crunch and Kevin Harlan. So he would always I'm trying to think of an example. I'd go over and play with him on the scores table, and he'd kind of give me just get out of here. It was always like this contentious thing, and he wanted like this little heat between us. So at one point he does this thing where he's like, I'm gonna throw the ball at you. So I give him the football for a bit, and I go out, and he wouldn't throw it. And so I come over, and I'm kind of like raise my hands, like, come on, throw it at me, dude. And so I turn around, and I kind of open the crowd to get why wouldn't he throw it to me? I turn back around to face him, and I have him, and he just literally rifles it, hits me in the seats. And so I double down. Everyone's kind of booing him, and he's just like, get him out of here. And he's playing enough, and he loves the whole bit. Again, it's like he's like the biggest fan of this whole interaction. So then, a few games later, he's like, Crunch, I want to do this thing with you. He goes, bring the football out, and we'll do the whole back and forth. This time, I'm going to stand up, and I want you to throw in the seeds. And he goes, hit me as hard as you can. And he's like, just do it. So I'm like, I was going to say no to that. So we do this interaction, and I remember I get him up, and he's like waving, like, throw it to me. And I rifle one. I don't know how he lived through it. I mean, I literally hit him square between the legs, and he just kind of ducks down. What the hell are you doing? But football is the greatest thing ever. Bring the football back.
I don't know why they don't let us use the football anymore.
Yeah. Bring the football back. Oh, I love the football.
Kenny, you just did use it. You did the thing with Peyton Manning. I mean, again, that's the kind of interaction that the football is so great at. You can draw people in, and you can tell the story. Oh, well, maybe you didn't do that. Sorry,
I didn't do that.
I mean,
I'll tell you about a mascot that did.
So the football toss. There's another great example. Recently, one of the mascots in the NBA did it, where he brings that out and he hands it to Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning throws him a pass. And of course, that guy's such a doofus that he dropped the pass.
Oh,
Peyton Manning. I mean, the great Peyton Manning. Your one chance for this amazing bit, and that mascot dropped the pass.
I was in the crowd. I was in the crowd for that one, so I could.
You were.
Yeah, so I could probably tell it a little bit better. So a little bit more accurate.
That's what happened.
So this time, Peyton Manning was sitting in the stands about 7 or 8 rows up.
The Peyton Manning?
Yes, with his kids. It was the only seats available that night, apparently. So, yeah. Normally...
This was not in Cleveland.
Normally, famous people or football players that throw the football are sitting courtside. So, yeah. Anyways, Peyton throws this pass. And the mascot, I swear, lost it in the lights. That's all it was. So, but he was able to redeem himself a few games later when Peyton was sitting courtside. Didn't lose it in the lights that night.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. I did a bit one time with the hoop pants, threw the ball as far, just like a Nerf kickball kind of thing, or, the size of a kickball, throw it as far as I can in the stadium. The guy throws it back and only makes it, maybe 10, 15 rows down. It gets nowhere close to the court. Hits this old lady in the back of the head. Everyone's booing him. I go grab the ball, walk it back up to the same guy, hand it to him. But then this time, I don't go back to the court. I only went like 15 rows down. And he tries to throw it again. Short this time, hits someone's drink. Their drink goes everywhere. I can't write this. So walk back up, hand it to him again, and then just step just a few. Okay, just put it in the hoop, and
again, you're just like setting it up. Easy to play off of that.
Yeah,
bring the football back, people.
Yeah, and they always say, never work with animals or kids. I'm like, that's what I would love to work with animals and kids every time, because something funny is always going to happen. Something's going to happen. And what about? Remember, you've done a bunch with kids, and that one time when the kid ran and didn't he grab onto one of the players' legs or something?
Oh, yeah. yeah. So um, brought this kid in because I had seen him dance, and so man, I brought him out to dance, and he was like 3. I swear he could move and he could break and he could spin and all this stuff, but just the tiniest little guy. And when the break was over, I'm like, okay, yay! You know, I set it up like, hey, I just brought this kid out of the stands, you know, woo! And at the end of the bit, I'm like, okay, bah, that's the buzzer. Let's go, come on. And he's like, no, come on. No, seriously, we got to go. You know, let's go. Well, the players are starting to come back out on the court, and so I'm like, I got to get him. So I started to go grab him. He starts running around avoiding me, you know. And I'm like, dude, so I'm going with it, and I'm looking at the fans, and they're laughing and everything. The kid, as I turn away, the kid runs over and sits right down on.
I was thinking it was Carmelo Anthony, but
No, it wasn't. It was a big tall. It was one of these big tall guys.
Tall guy.
Did he play basketball?
Yeah. Anyways, runs over. So he runs over and he plops himself right down on this guy's foot, sitting on the bench, and holds onto his leg. I'm like, just
Can't write that.
mortified. Can't write this. I'm like mortified, and at the same time, I'm like, yes, this is happening. So yeah.
It just wrote itself, and now you're like, okay, how can I do this again?
Yeah.
Something similar, not the exact same thing, but something very similar to this.
Right. I swear his dad told him to do that or something, but he literally hung on and would not let go of this guy's leg. It was great. But I did have a crazy thing happen one time with George Karl being our coach. Brought out a baby one time, handed it to the referee, walk off, and the referee's like, oh, what do we do with this now? Usually they'll hand it to a fan after you walk off. No, this referee handed it to George Karl, head coach, and then started the game again. Yeah, I'm like, oh, I disappeared at that point. And sure enough, yeah, we were playing Seattle that night. The coach of the Sonics was so mad, he complained to the league. They tried to fine us, tried to fine me. I'm like, I didn't do anything. It was the referee. So, yeah, but it was awesome having, George Karl walking around with his baby and coaching at the same time. Held him for like 5 minutes. So, can't write it. Can't write that stuff.
And you probably could if we were smart enough. We could have, but
None of us are.
Yeah, or I probably wouldn't have been afraid to talk to George Karl about that one. So, anything? I want to bring up stories about Desi, but I know.
So Desi he's a really interesting guy because he was with Sports Magic in Orlando and was part of their court crew guys, or their performers. And then he had this thing. He said, really want to be a mascot. So it was interesting because watch a guy who really just like followed, a lot of the NBA things and just kind of like shadow you around to try to figure out the business. And he worked his way and he got the job with the Kings, I think was his first one. He bounced around a couple places. He was with Pittsburgh for a while.
And we're always trying to help. I don't know one of us that wouldn't help out a guy, trying to break in.
I can't remember why the story sticks in my head, but he was in Yakima doing a CBA show, and maybe I was in Yakima like the following week or something like that. The guy was telling the story, but he wanted to like rappel down, and he insisted upon being up in the rafters, which a lot of guys do, before the crowd comes in so they don't see him. And so he was up there. I think he was up there for like 4 hours for the game. And kind of, it was just like this guy living in the rafters before he like rappelled down for his bit. But they were like, well, we didn't know why, but he insisted on being up there.
Yeah, we have all kinds of stuff. Let's switch gears though, real quick. Mark, did you do any CBA stuff?
Yeah, I actually was trying to pull up this picture. When you said Yakima, it reminded me. I taught the Sunday school class at my church the last few years, and it's for newly marrieds. And I had this guy come in with his wife. They just got married a few weeks before, and so I went to lunch with him. We're just catching up, trying to. Oh no, actually, we had like this event where we were playing pickleball with a bunch of the guys, and he's wearing a University of Washington sweatshirt. So we're just kind of chatting. And I'm like, hey, yeah, you go to UW? He's like, no, I grew up in Yakima in Washington. You know, it's a small town not too far away from Seattle. And I was like, hey, I used to go there all the time when I was Squatch. I'd go do halftime shows there. And he's like, you were Squatch? I was like, yeah. You ever see me? He's like, yeah, we had season tickets to the Sun Kings, and we would go all the time. He's like, you know, what years were you there? Because there was a guy before me for 4 years. And so trying to figure out the years and everything. And he's like, oh, hold on one second. He grabs his phone. He starts texting, or I just see him typing. And we start talking again. And then like 2 minutes later, he's like, hey, I just got this. Did you hold people upside down like this to take pictures? I'm like, yeah. So he was like 12 years old when I held him upside down. 12.
Oh, that's him.
That is him. That is a picture of him.
That's great.
Is on his parents' mantle, like right now. Like, so he texted his mom and said, hey, can you take a picture of the picture on the mantle of me being held upside down from Squatch? And so I'm like, yeah, I would always do that. I got that from Ken. I don't know who you stole that from, but I would always pick
Cudo.
upside down. Yeah, Cudo, the godfather of everything. I mean, what are the odds of that? Like, he's now 25 years old and or 24 years old, married in Oklahoma City, and I'm teaching a Sunday school class. Weird.
That's crazy.
Oh my gosh. See, sun just shines. Boom. You know, that's amazing though. I literally was just having a guy tell me today about me being in his middle school and all that stuff too. But I mean, isn't it funny? You will never know what pictures people have up in their houses of you. You'll never know what impact you had on them. Hopefully it was positive. You know, Cudo, he has some CBA stories that I would love to go over off this podcast again. But, you know, a lot of the time, man, Cudo, that's how you made your living, man. You were out there hustling.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So when I first started 89, it was really, you know, the CBA was sort of untapped in that there was probably 16 teams. I mean, maybe even 20 teams at one point. And there's actually a rival league called the GBA at one point. And at the time, like of the mascots who were out there, that very few toured. And the Chicken did some, and you'd see his name pop around a little bit. He was really expensive, so he was priced out for a lot of those teams. But like the Gorilla was really big in the CBA, and I was like, hey, this is where you can make some real money. I mean, I was probably making more from CBA teams than I was from my own team for a few years, but you know, I always look back. First of all, I don't know how I did it physically because it's just the travel and it all is incredible. But you know, you're doing 41 home games. I was doing my peak year was like the 5th year in. I did 44 road shows, which means I was traveling more than the team was doing. And like after every game, you would literally like the next morning I'd pack up and I'd be on the road tripping to, you know, wherever, you know, Rapid City and Cedar Rapids and Sioux Falls and everywhere in the country. And you know, like that and the college and the colleges were huge. And that was like where you could really make some money.
Yeah, you were hustling, man. I was always impressed with how many you were cranking out.
Oh yeah, it was a deal. My favorite numbers were every year just based on the schedule, and like there, you know, like high schools play on Thursday nights, you know, colleges play Fridays or whatever the whole rigmarole is. But there was always one stretch for like 3 or 4 years in a row. I'd do 5 games in 5 different states in 5 nights. So you'd literally just be bouncing like state to state, making a big loop. And sometimes it'd be 1 home game and 4 road shows, but that was hustle. And then sometimes you'd do 6 and 9. So 6 in 6 different states, 9 days. And again, physically, I remember I did a Cavs game one night, and I flew out and did this other character I did called the King of Sports in New Orleans. And I'm flying out, and I'm on the flight, and I'm so drained. I'm just like, I can barely keep my eyes open. And I'm thinking, this is day 2. I mean, this is just 5 days in a row. I'm like, what? Like superhuman 20-year-old? I mean, I don't know how I did that. I don't know how now, but like the miles were significant at that point.
And you traveled by yourself at that time.
No,
Or
those
did
road
you?
shows I had an assistant with me. The first year I went solo on some of those, but it's you know the drill. It's impossible to do a show and try to teach someone your show and where the trampoline goes and all that. It's not safe either. But no, yeah, I would travel with somebody else at the time.
Well, I was going to say that's probably a pretty rough schedule, but if you had somebody taking care of you, it wasn't bad then. So
It's still.
I don't know how you did that, man. I don't, the
I
energy
don't either.
was taken. So. And were you You were dunking too. Were you dunking?
Oh, you were dunking too. Yeah, it's funny. We talked about those bad dunks, and early on, like nowadays, every CBA team has a trampoline mat. Almost every one of them has their own trampoline. Those guys all try to do it. Mark sold them a trampoline. Back in the day, I mean, I remember like sending out my contract and have a little note in there. You have to bring this mat there. And I remember we were writing notes about the scary dunks and stuff. I did a show. This is my first season in Cedar Rapids for the Silver Bullets of the CBA. And I bring my trampoline. I don't think I've traveled the trampoline maybe. And I made them use their trampoline. So I'm going and I hook the thing and I'm just trying to do a kind of a layout dunk and then land, belly down on the mat. And I never touched the mat because I didn't bring it out there. I just had them put in the right spot. I put the trampoline where I needed it. At that time, I didn't have an assistant with me. Put the tramp down and run back. I do the dunk. I get up. I'm like, oh, this is good. And I land on the mat. And you realize this is one of those mats from a gymnastics center, somewhere that's the one they would loan out. So it has, in the center of it, it is completely pitted out. It's like landing on a napkin. And I mean, you know the feeling when you lose all your air and you get the wind knocked out of you and you're just gasping for any semblance of breath. And I'm like dunk one, 15 seconds into a 2-minute timeout and I'm laying on the ground just going, just wheezing, trying to catch my breath so I could finish the timeout. That's where you realize I got to take a little closer look at every one of these mats every single time. So the mat language got a little more detailed and I was a little more cautious after that.
That's right. If you can bounce a quarter off of it, or if you get, I had my share of those.
Running out of breath. I always remember doing birthday parties at Rocky's place in Denver, and I would always forget how thin the air is there. We're doing halftime, and it's like, hey, we're going to do this obstacle course, and you're going to run down and go do this and all that, and I'm like, oh yeah, no problem, I got this. And 30 seconds in, I'm like, okay, do I need to pull my head off on court right now? I'm at that point. Do I just lay down? Do I take the head off, or do I try to make it off the court? I'm going to die. Every time.
Well, you were at sea level up there.
Yeah. That was a dramatic change.
Man.
You know what? Can you remind me of something early in the podcast? You were talking about the college thing and just how you would find something, or like the crowd was so engaged that no matter what you did, like you said, you were kind of doing this stuff that you're embarrassed about now. But as you said that, all I kept thinking about, like in this world, how much of this is just a confidence thing. And it's like you just said, those guys just fed off. You put your hand up, they would just go all crazy. And then you're just trying other stuff and they're buying along with you. And like, every time I think about like good comedy in the crowd, good antics and good mascot stuff, it's always like, it's that guy who's just so confident. And it's like, you're just trying stuff. And again, some of that is the crowd feeding it back to you, but it's like, this is such a confidence game that I keep thinking about it. And Mark, and you must have stories about when you just like peak performance where you're like, I can try anything because it all works right now.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's, Ken was my mentor and kind of trained me up in that. And I got to see him firsthand how he would do that. And one of the things he told me right from the beginning is, you own the court, you own this arena. This is your place. So when you put on that suit and you step out there, you can do anything at any time, and you need to have that mentality. And when you have that, people feed off of that. And you're respectful with it. You're not doing that just to piss people off. But when you have that opposing team fan who might be playing around with you, you have that confidence to say, no, that's not going to happen here. This is my house. If anyone's leaving, you're leaving. I'm not leaving. And or with any other fans that might be, a little out of control. And then then this stuff starts happening. You can start to see the funny things and play off of that. And you got your crowd behind you. There's something magical about those kind of moments.
Yeah. I'm even telling my kids now still, everything's confidence. Everything's confidence. If you're going to do something, do it with confidence. But watching this VHS tape with my son the other day, I'm like, this is going on forever. Like, she filmed forever and I'm still out there. I'm like, that's right. I didn't take any breaks back then. There was no place to take a break. I would be out there the whole time. And it's funny because I kept having to say, look, dude, I was just trying stuff. It was trying to keep myself entertained, let alone everybody else. And, that's where, gosh, a lot of that confidence grew, and a lot of that, just interaction stuff with people grew because I just had to stay out there.
That makes me think, I wonder if, when all three of us got to do a lot of road shows, obviously Cudo way more than me, and then more than Ken. And then I was kind of behind that. But, as later in my career is when they really started drying up as far as road shows, or at least the teams not wanting to have their brand associated with some other school or something like that. But it kind of reminds me of, comedians who go to these stand-up clubs and they're trying new stuff and it's all terrible and it's bombing, and they have one good thing, like, okay, cool, that's going in the show. And then when they get big, they're Chris Rock or some, Kevin Hart, they do an hour-long show and it's like, everything is incredible, all their material is awesome. It's like, well, they just spent 10 years of giving up, writing crappy jokes that no one liked, to find that 1 hour worth of material, and now you see it. So I wonder, like, with these guys, current guys, if they don't get that as much too, and how do you start to perfect your craft if you're always on the big stage? You right. Don't have an opportunity to fail and not make a big deal out of it.
Yeah. They're watching this video as well. I noticed there was a couple things that I still do. Yeah. I mean, it was the whole, raising my hands, dropping it down, raising them halfway, dropping it down. I do that now with clapping as well. But it's funny to look back and go, oh my gosh, that's where I started that. That's where, it's those little things that you go back and go, oh, that worked and that didn't,
Well, it's that 10,000 hour rule where they say, to become an expert in something, you just put in the hours, and that's where it is. It's like you're going out there, you're failing, but also you're cataloging all those little nuances that work, those little tricks of the trade. That, again, it's like it's funny. You don't teach people that. You don't like, hey, you're going to be you're the new mascot here. We're going to help you out. It's like you can't teach them what you learned over 1,000 hours or 2,000 hours. Like, you just got to go out there and just do it.
It also reminds me of doing school shows. At the end of my career, we were doing 60 or 80 school shows a year, and it was pretty much the same show every time. And every once in a while, something would go wrong. The pogo stick broke, and the kids just went crazy. And like, okay, we've got to figure out how do we make this break every time. My assistant John Brooks says the wrong thing. He calls the principal the wrong name, and everyone starts laughing. Like, okay, every time you have to say the wrong principal's name,
There's a gimmick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you guys have really taken what you've learned over the years and molded it into different things. And well, you guys, I really appreciate you coming on. I'm proud to know you guys. I look up to both of you. So
thanks for having me on, and go Portland Fire. Rivalry lives.
Yeah, and I said you look up to both of us just because you're so short. You look up to everybody.
I look up to everybody. I set you up for that.
Thanks, Ken. See you, Mark.
Peace.
I don't want no combo, I want checks. I don't want the second, I want this. I'm all in my head, swear I'm a wreck. I've been moving like a hot mess. convo, better know you'll need a check from me. Can pay to play, the sun still won't get us.